Hello, folks, and welcome to another Friday night. I'm not going fishing this weekend. I'm at the Winter Carp Show. Hope to see a few of you down there. But the cold here, isn't it? The summer's gone, the autumn's gone, and now we're definitely into winter. And when I say definitely into winter, I've noticed that even when it's raining now, it's very cold rain. But let's get it right. Don't get out the habit of going fishing. Don't miss out in the winter. As soon as you get some decent clothes on, if you're carping, there's nothing better than being in a shelter, to my mind. When it's raining or sleeting or whatever, and you're comfortable, especially if you're with your mate, just under a shelter, sheltering from that weather. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I really do. And like I went the other day, I went on a local little river and I trotted. And I was only there probably 3 hours, but it was absolutely fantastic. It recharged the batteries. And, I've just come back from Kenya fishing for sailfish, etc. But, it was just fantastic to put the float in, couple of maggots on a size 18, trotting it down, single on a 20, and just getting bites all the time. Really, really smashing. It's like Colin Ebb says, love it in all weathers. If you keep going out, you just get used to it. And it's such a delight to be out there, and people get out the habit. Don't get out the habit. Just get out there and catch a few fish. Okay, this week I'm going to be talking on. This week is actually last week, but what a fantastic! I've got a C1 in the summer next year. I'm hoping to do 3 or 4 group do's, if you like. No, not group do's. We have one group do, but one about four times out, different species, using my contacts, and to make some fantastic days. And the chaps that turned up, it was great. Mark Latham, Phil, Mart, John Ettle, Richard, Paul, Glenn. It was an absolute delightful time. Nothing could have gone any better. It really was. We had the weather. It was raining and terrible morning. I thought, oh my God, have we picked a real bad one? But in the end, the day went absolutely beautiful. The next day, on the next day, although we had a heavy frost, 4 degrees on the morning, it didn't dull our anticipation for fish. And the real dark horse of the trip was Phil Millwood. I know that he used to fish Rutland for many years and caught some fish, but I tell you what, although he was saying he was struggling with his casting, getting back into his casting, he hadn't done it for a few years, he really did show that he's he's a very competent angler, and he caught the biggest brown and the biggest rainbow. And we started off with a blast. I was fishing next to Richard Francis, which was great. I was landing his fish, he was landing mine, and we had a run of tigers. Absolutely fantastic. There's Richard with a tiger there, and there's me with a tiger up there, and they were fabulous fish. Sort of full tail fish. Then we had our breakfast. I think it was about 10 o'clock. We all sat down and drank tea, except for Phil, who decided to empty half a bottle of rum into his flask, but that's another story. I don't know if it kept him warm or it kept him sort of falling over. I don't know. It certainly didn't stop him catching fish. And then we carried on catching fish in the afternoon. We had a lovely Jane and Ed, the owners of the fishery, put on a lovely breakfast. Then they put on a lovely afternoon meal for us, and then the next day went the same. We stopped in their shepherd huts. You just couldn't get any better. If our trips go like this, if our trip down to Falmouth in the summer goes like that, we got an absolute fantastic trip to look forward to. And I'm going to be doing a few of these, and I'd like other people. I mean, it's just not just me. use the group to get things in your area, get them up like almost satellite groups to go fishing. Let's not only talk to one another on here, let's go fishing together and learn one another and enjoy you know the type of people you are, you know the type of people that's in here. You might not want to go carp fishing, you might want to go trout fishing. There's a few trouters coming on here now, great. And Mart Goodman. It's the first time I've really had anything to do with Mart. I've met him, talked to him a couple of times. It was fantastic, and it was fantastic to see Mart. Everybody there, I knew it to be really good, but I didn't know the weather would be so good, the food would be so good, and the atmosphere was fantastic. It really, really, really was. And I'd like to thank everybody, and I'd like to thank Jane and Ed and the family for putting on such a great time. It really was. Yeah, I mean, Rick Burton just said, sounds a great idea getting together. It is. I'm like you. I like to fish on my own. I fish a lot on my own, but there's nothing better than getting together. Paul Bradley, a bit of healing. Yeah, I mean, I'm up for anything as long as it involves fishing and enjoyment and having a few laps. I'm up for everything. So let's do it. Let's get it together. Okay. Next, let's move to the Angling Times, and I looked in there. Glenn Fellers has just come on, first time fly fishing, cracking group of lads. Yeah, I mean, I think Glenn had 13, he'll probably correct me, 13 or 14 fish in the 2 days. And, he'd never caught a trout on a fly. He went home, casting a lot better. He went, he sort of caught some lovely fish up to, I think he probably had them up to, I don't know, 5 or 6 pound. Rainbows. It was, all round. It was great. Okay, the Angling Times. I noticed that Paul and Bob have been given a good reviews for the program, and it said in the Angling Times, Bob and Paul boost angling interest, which is great. You don't have to be a serious fisherman. I'm sure you don't have to be a top class match angler to go on TV. And I think what they've done, I mean, it's very little about serious fishing. It ain't about serious fishing, about two blokes that, have had hard problems and they're just making the most of their life. And it's great. It's delightful. It really is. And I think it puts another side to fishing. You've got all the other carp ones, sort of, Jeremy after monsters and whatever, but this is a different one. It really is good fishing, and I can see how it has boosted figures. How it really do, and I think I think we would watch that, and kids would watch that, and something that I've fished for a few years, and it would get them into. It's super, absolutely super. The next one I picked was a PVA stick mix from Bella Pass out. How do I make a mix, and how do I make a PVA bag, etc. Well, Paul's. Paul is done a lovely everything. I mean, Richard dropping in and out, or is it my end? It's probably your end. We not have the whole everybody now saying that it's slow down or whatever. It's probably your end. It just is steady talking. So I'll carry on, and hopefully everything fine. So there's a stick that's absolutely super, absolutely super, absolutely super mix. So there you are. It's worth reading just for that. Then we've got a super offer from Angling Times, and that is the £19.99 for a full year's subscription. Absolutely super. I mean, I don't know what that works into. 51 editions for £19.99. That's got to be worth. It's got to be worth. It's got to be worth it. It really has. So okay, let's go on to exciting thing for me. A really exciting thing for me is this one, which is. A new YouTube channel that I'm opening, which is Des Taylor's Angling World. and it's a YouTube. If it'll be open tomorrow. There's very little on it at the moment. We're just starting to put this show will be on it, and what will be on this YouTube channel is all my shows from now will be taken off and then put onto the onto the YouTube channel, so you can watch from there. It's free to watch. It's not a money making venture off you people. And what will happen is you can see that, and we're going to put on lots of different a different playlists. There'll be Luke, there'll be myself, there'll be my friends on there. There'll be videos of all sorts, etc., etc. It really is going to be really special, I hope. There's going to be tips. There's going to be me fishing. Great. So okay. The next one we've got is the Cadence Real Deal, which hopefully we can get this on now, which is, I really do think this is the deal of deals, and if you're being paid the end of this week, if you need some reels for next year, then this has got to be the one. It really has.
Hi Des, got a fantastic new deal for you on our CS5 reels. So we got two reels in the series. We've got the 3000 and the 4000, and we're going to start this deal at your show on Friday night, and basically we're going to offer a fantastic value, brilliant price. So we're offering two reels for the price of one. Now the retail on these is £70, so basically you're getting two for the price of £70. You can go for two the same size, so you could go for two 4000s or two 3000s, or you could mix it up and have one of each. Basically you're going to have a code that you can share with your followers, and they can order the reels direct from our website, apply the code, and we're going to run this deal until the 4th of December. So a bit of spec on these fantastic reels. Let's have a look at the 3000 first. Both the reels are made with this carbon composite body and rotor, which makes them really light but very strong. You've got an machined aluminium spool, and if you can see on there, there's a rubber band, which is great if you're fishing with braid, to stop the braid from slipping around the spool. I also like it because I took my knot when I tie the line on underneath that band. So you've got a beautiful machined aluminium spool, and incidentally you get a spare spool as well, which is also exactly the same aluminium. You've got a really nice line clip, which we've protected with this plastic back, so you're not going to get the line cutting on the line kit when you use the line clip to fix the distance when you're fishing. You've got a really nice carbon fibre drag, which is also very strong. Now these reels have got a gear ratio of 6.1 to 1, so it's a nice fast retrieve. And you've got 8 + 1 bearings. So you've got 8 stainless steel bearings and 1 instant anti-reverse bearing. So the reel's absolutely packed with top spec features. Makes the reels very smooth, very powerful. You've got an oversized line roller, and these are our new CS5s, so they're revised. I think they look absolutely fantastic. On the 3000, the capacity on the spool is basically 110 meters of 4-pound line. So I tend to use this reel for float fishing at shorter range with lighter lines, and also feeder fishing ledger in at closer range. It also makes a fantastic spinning reel as well, light spinning. So that's the 3000 size. Obviously step up in size is the 4000. You've got all the same features as the 3000. Increased line capacity, so you've got 150 meters of 8-pound line on this one. So for me this is great for heavier feeder fishing, longer range with the feeder or ledger, and also when I'm fishing with thicker lines and longer rods when I'm float fishing. I didn't mention on both reels you've got this lovely EVA handle knob, very comfortable in all conditions when it's wet and cold. And again, you've got the same gear ratio of 6.1 to 1. All the features packed into these fantastic reels. So there you go, Des. That's a wonderful deal for you and your followers. 2 reels for the price of 1. So you're getting 2 reels for £70. Cheers.
I hope some more people take advantage of that. It really is a great special for the group and members. It really is something special there. Okay, let's just move on to the nature trail now. And we've got a couple of lovely things from Paul yet again. Yeah, Rick Burton there saying a cracking deal. It is. It's certainly as good a deal as we've ever had on here before. So that should be that. I mean, is unbelievable. I think it goes on to the 4th of December. This week, this is obviously Paul talking. This week, I've been seeing some large flocks of our winter migrant thrushes, the redwing and filfare. These birds arrive from northern Europe and Scandinavia for the winter, and I usually start seeing them from mid-October. But this year, I've only started noticing any numbers this week. It is this week because last week when I said to Paul when I was trout fishing with him about the filfares, I'd seen some huge flocks over Kidderminster, and he said he hadn't seen many. So just the week after, obviously they've started to arrive now, which is great. With so many berries arriving early this year, they will be moving around a lot to find food, readily stripping the few berries that have to go at this year, and mostly been seeing them on the floor hunting for worms. Yeah, we had an early batch of berries, didn't we, with the weather, and then all of a sudden the birds ate them all, not with a thought for winter, and there you go, they've got none for now, which sadly is not good, but there you go. Okay, and the other one is that I think this is going to be super from Paul. He's purchased a trail camera, and this week I've taken collection of a new trail camera, a very special piece of equipment, as this is not only fitted with a quality camera, but will relay photos and videos to my phone as it is triggered. This will open up no end of new adventures for the nature trail. I'm going to set this weekend and set this up the weekend near to a badger set. So that's going to be. That's going to be absolutely super. I've got a feeling in future he's going to step it up to a new level, which I didn't think he could. It's so good, but there you go. I'm looking forward to some of the nature trails in the future. That's for sure. Okay, now we've got. I've hit the wrong one. Here we go. There we go. John Wilson. Now, before I start, can you not send your comments on this page, please? It's just emails, because, if you put it on here, one, you're spoiling the thing, and if you're right, but mainly in fact, all the ones that shot on last week were wrong. So it's onto emails. If you want to win the John Wilson book, then email the answer now. And that is, which river did John catch his £90 plus Marseille from? Which river in India, of course, did John catch his £90 plus Marseille from? He had 90s, 80s, 70s. He was one of the, he wasn't the first. There was Paul Boot and there was Jeremy down there first. But John went down. He was the first one to put it on TV, etc., and in books, more commercially. That's let's put it like that. And some great catches he had with his two guides down there, Subban and Bowler. Super times, and I really did enjoy it. So yeah, there's another book up for grabs. Talking about books, Mohamed Ozzy, he's absolutely what a fantastic guy, and what a fantastic member of the group he is. Yeah, I'm not going to say which books they are, but they're two very, very expensive books. Very expensive books that he's given to the group for prizes, and I'll tell you what you need to do to win those books, and certainly they really are worth winning. You're going to be shocked at what Mohammed has given the members for the prize. It's sort of it's the wow factor job. It really is. It's going to be 2 Superbook prizes over the course. I don't know whether we're going to do it over the winter or whether we're going to do it for 1 week. I think we should perhaps put it up for grabs over a period. One's a pike book. And one's an all-round book, but very expensive, very collectible, and so we might run it through the winter. The top pike, or the most successful, or the top pike angler, or the most inspiring pike angler of the membership to win it. I don't know. It's certainly going to be very, very, very good. So okay, so send your answers on to my email, destailorangling888@gmail.com, and we'll go from there and see who wins that. Okay, next is the Winter Carp Show. I'm down there tomorrow for 2 days. I'm going early tomorrow. I could have gone down tonight, but I wanted to do the show, and so we've got the show, and I'm away for the 2 days, and I'll be back back into fishing again. I really would have liked to have gone fishing the weekend with Steve Greenway. He's had some tremendous fish the last few days. I know he's had a 3.2, a 3.3, and a 3.9, and he was still fishing when I last spoke to him, so he might have had even more. I think he had another 2.5 pounder and a couple around about a pound, so having tremendous things. I can't wait to get with him next week and see if I can catch a few perch with him. Sure, that's Mohammed. It's a pleasure, Des. It really is a pleasure, mate, and your generosity is not unnoticed, mate, by me or the other members. It really isn't. Thank you so much. I'm not going to tell people yet. I'm not going to do a spoiler on that. I'll tell them about that. I'll tell them about that next week, probably. Okay, so load of good names there, load of big companies there, and I'd love to see a few members down there. Really would. And I always say, these shows, it's down at Sandown. It's tomorrow and Sunday, and it really is the places where you learn. It really is this. Shows like this and other shows and watching people fish where you're mixing with quality. Don't be jealous of people that do it. Like I hear so much this, like certain anglers that really get ripped off, sort of knocked about on Facebook and whatever, and yet if you meet them you could learn rather than decry them and knock it, which is the great British treat that we've got, is actually knocking the successful. But go and mix with the successful, go and learn from them. You got nothing to lose. It ain't going to cost you a fortune. It really isn't. It's worth it, that's for sure. Okay, my tip this week, a fairly simple one, just to get some fishing actually at this time of year. Phil Lane, we are down here and in the bar. Oh, Phil's already down there. Well done, Phil. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be on the stand with you and come over and see you, mate. It'd be a pleasure. Well, when I was a kid, I learned to fish on the canal. And the brick house estate had a canal that run through, and it was absolutely super fishing. There was great roach, and everything was there. There was even water bowls. There was newts, great crested newts, palmate newts, smooth newts. It was a haven for young people to learn about nature and fishing. But then sadly it got polluted, and it really went back. And yet now that same canal produces tench and carp and bream, and it really is. And one of the things that I've done the last few years, I haven't done it the last about 3 years, but I went on a bit of a surge to try and catch some decent chub. And I fished for them at night with luncheon meat, with fish baits and boilies, and caught them. And I had them to £6 and over. And I had them in the day fishing casters and hemp on the float. There's a couple of big fish I had in the day. Winter, autumn, fantastic. And I tell you something now, the cold days the cold days of winter, you can catch them. I had a couple of fives the one night. I had a couple of fours and a couple of fives. It was, you know, I was worried about the canal freezing over. I really was, but it's absolutely fabulous fishing. And all I can say to you, you know, it's a lot of water. It's bigger than a reservoir, isn't it? A canal, if you look at the area. But I tell you something now, all you need to do is, John Pullman's just come on. Oh no, it's not the match angler. It is, you know, talk to match anglers, go into the tackle shop, talk to the canal match anglers, and they'll say where they've either caught these chub or they've lost these chub. And there's some absolutely magical fishing on these canals, and out of the cities, you know. I think canals are beautiful structures. I really do, and I love locks. I love to fish near locks, in between locks. I just think they really are beautiful things. A canal, and they're fabulous places to fish, and not only for chub. I mean, a lot of good perch have come in over the last few years. Not the last 2 or 3 years, but certainly I had them to over £3 or just over £3, and had lots of 2s and 1 pounders and small fish, especially on walking the worm, walking a small dendra worm on a drop shot rig and just chucking it out and just working it across the canal. And also there's some of the waters, some of the canals hold some big pike. The problem is there are people that are going and catching them and killing them and eating them, which is a great shame, and we know who they are, and that needs to be stopped. And I think we are getting on top of that to a degree. But you know, there's great pike fishing, there's great perch fishing, there's great chub fishing, and I know if you look and watch the lads from Brierley Hill, the likes of Lee Andrews and Bill Rowley and those chaps, they have some fabulous roach and some fabulous bream catches. They really do. So it really is worth fishing the canals. It's not one of these small fish venues that, you know, you go catch little gudgeon and little roach and it's all bits. It isn't. You know, you can still do that on some stretches. I know a water where I should go and do it. I haven't. There's some big rudd on a canal. You know, I mean, big rudd. You know, a mate of mine had a 3. You know, which is absolutely fantastic. And the amount, I mean, when you talk about the Grand Union Canal and all down there, the southern canals, they produced a number of £4 perch and £2 roach, and of course there's always the chance of a monster eel. Still, I mean, it's always been known for eels as the canals, and I had a few over the years when I was younger, and no doubt there's still some in. So, you know, don't forget the canal, and when the river's up and it's cold, you know, there's probably a local canal near you with some bloody smashing specimen fish to be caught. So, you know, don't forget the canals, give them a go. And that's my tip for the week. Okay, let's get over to the zero fit photo of the week. I had to give it Kev Gibb. Lovely cold water fish. He'd gone out. It was on a very, very cold day. And what did he do? He went out and he had one bite. I think it was one bite. And I thought, yeah, I know what you need. You need a zero fit, keep you warm. If you're going to do those sort of days, you know, cold days after the sitting there for a barbel, I thought, well done, mate. And it's a lovely photograph. Look at the head on that. Look at the barbels. It's absolutely a super photo, super background. Typifies winter barbel fishing, doesn't it? It really does. So for that photo, Kev, you get the zero fit, and it'll be with you. It'll be with you next week. Well done, mate. Okay, talking about warm and talking about keeping warm. There's nothing better than keeping you warm than a nice meal, and a nice meal on the bank. And if you know a hot meal and you know a best hot meal, you'd get Ambrose to cook it for you, wouldn't you? So here's Ambrose cooking a real nice winter meal again on the bank.
How are we doing? Just on the middle level today after a pike. Been very, very quiet, and further pike anglers down here as well who are having it quiet. So good time for some dinner. And today we've got some potatoes, tin of garden peas, a small bag of the chopped onions and carrots, just a little bottle of oil in there, and some beef mince. So today I am going to have mince and mash. So I'll get them potatoes peeled and we'll fire up one of these stoves. Right, I've peeled me potatoes and I've got them on. And today I've got two Trangia triangles and a Trangia mini just to up the peas up in. So I've got gas in on one and alcohol burners on the other two. So I brought the potatoes to the boil on the gas. Now I've just transferred it over to the alcohol burner. So what I'm going to do first, I've got a little bit of oil in there. I'm going to get me carrots and onions in there. I'm just going to soften them off for a few minutes before I add the mince. Right, I think me onions and carrots have just sweated them off. So now I'm going to add the mince. I'm going to brown this mince off. I'll add a little drop, just boiled a little kettle of boiling water. I'll add a little bit of water, then I've got an oxo and some Bisto just to mix in it to thicken it up a little bit. So we'll get this browned off and we'll add them in there. Right, my mince is browned off, so what I'm doing now, I've got this little kettle of boiling water. So I'm going to add a drop of hot water. I'm going to put an oxo in there to start with. They do smell nice. I can add a little drop more water if I need to. I don't want it too watery. That's what I like about this Trangia stuff, because I use it a lot. It all folds away so small, so I can bring 3 stoves and they'll just all fold away and fit in me bag nice and easy. I've got that stirred in. Right, I'll put a bit of Bisto in there now to thicken it up. Might need a little bit more water. What I'll do, I'll let this simmer away for a while and keep stirring, and we'll wait those potatoes are done. I've got a little tin of peas I've got to get in, and we'll get dished up. Right, we're about getting there. The mince and carrots and onions look about done. The peas are hot up. I've just checked my potatoes. They're bubbling away and nice and soft. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to strain the potatoes off now, and I've brought some really nice butter to mash in with them, and strain the peas off, and we'll get dished up. Right, I'm ready to dish up, so I'm just going to turn this mince off. I've strained my potatoes and mashed them, so I'm going to get some of them out first. Put plenty of butter in there as well. It's a bit windy and been raining. also that mint smells absolutely lovely. Peas. Some of this mince, I've, as per usual, done a bit too much, but I'm quite hungry, so it could be seconds. They do look nice. And there we go, mash, peas and mince beef. Looks nice, so I'm looking forward to that. I've got a bit of salt and pepper to put on there, so I'm going to get this out. Hopefully Sank will come along, but everybody's having it quiet today, but that's just how it is. So once again, thank you very much for watching. Tight lines and full bellies. Cheers.
Another super video from Ambrose. I just I love to look at his face when he's looking down at it. He's pleased how he's cooked it, but then you can see in his face, my God, when this is finished, I'm going to really enjoy eating it. A joy to watch. Okay, let's get to the question of the week, and the question of the week, as normal, wins a bag of pudding mix. We are working on a pudding mix. We started it last year, actually, hoping to get it out. I'd love to get it out by the end of next month. You know, I've been using it, but the packaging, etc. The Willy Worms haven't got it out, but we're working on it now, and I think you'll be suitably impressed with a sort of a winter version, if you like, of the pudding mix. I'm waiting for that to come on. So anyway, the winner of the pudding mix is a chap called Tony Boone, and although I mentioned it earlier, I think about learning on the canal and going to the show. Tony Boone said, "Who took you fishing for the first time? And or were you self-taught, or were they as good as you are now, or whatever?" But all I can say is that I went with a chap called Stan Poole and his son Keith Poole, and they took me fishing on the canal. But where I am at now, I would say, I put the effort in to make sure that I'm mixed with the right people. I've just put a few names here. Some of the match anglers that I went and watched at Stour Port, I was lucky that, the Cofton Hackett lads, the Birmingham lads, the Starlet lads, all these match anglers were just down the road, sort of literally from the Black Country. Or when I moved down here, I'd still watch them. And certainly if I heard that Steve Ringer was fishing a match locally, I'd go and watch him, or anyone like that. Or, but I used to watch, these top guys. I used to watch the top guys and ask them questions as well. I made a couple of films, Carp films on Cuttle Mill, and Ivan Marks made a couple of catching stillwater fish, roach, etc., and carp, and to talk to him and watch him, and why was he doing this, why he was doing that. I learned so much. And the same with sea anglers. I mixed with some great sea anglers, like John Rawls. I went down a few times and I would spend a week at a time down there fishing for tope and smooth hounds and whatever. And stemming off that, the Essex lads, like Mick Toomer and Dave Jordison and all absolute super anglers. And I learned so much from them, from them. And the same with pike fishing. I fished a lot with some real good pikers, and none other than Nige Williams. I spent a lot of time over the years with Nige and watching and learning, and I put my own little bits to it. That's how I learned that. And trout anglers, mixed with Dave Hughes. He took me trout fishing, and I mixed with some good trout anglers, good Midland trout anglers. And on the rivers, I can remember, Dave Plummer and Trev West and Tony Miles. I mixed with those people, and I went over to the Wensum and fished with some of the Norfolk lads, and mixed with Mick McEwen a lot. I fished with Mick McEwen a couple of years, and we travelled around together fishing down in Oxford. These are the rivers down in Oxford and down over Norfolk on the Wensum and the Waveney, and learned from these people. And of course, even now, I mix with some. I mean, I've learned so much over the years from Lawrence Breakspear, about barbel. I still talk to him now in great details, and I think we bounce off one another and we'll learn things, and that's you need to mix with these sort of people. And even now, Ray Cutler, I fished with Ray now for probably about 15 years, and learned so much from Ray, and Ray's learned from me. We pick up from one another. We talk, we discuss. We still have a drink every week together, and we'll discuss fishing. Unfortunately, I was told now that he might be returning in the next 12 months because he's having a new knee fitted, which hopefully he'll be able to walk and get out on the bank more again. But again, learned from these people all the time. You can't be in isolation and just learn. Not me. Learn off YouTube and off Angling Times or whatever. It's lovely to see it in live workings, watching people do things and asking them at the precise time, when they do something, that question, that moment in time is what learns you what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right, and when they did it. They'll say, I feed, you want to say feed little and often, then all of a sudden they'll put 2 catapult fulls in. You say, why did you do that? And there'll be some reason related to what they're catching, what they're not catching, what they've seen, whatever. And that's, to learn that, you need to invest some time in learning. You can't just go with your old man for 3 years and then just go out on your own fishing all the time on your own and just expect to pick it all up and be, especially as an all-round angler, I think you need to mix with, good anglers, sometimes the best anglers, and that's how I got there, Tony. Putting work in. That's for sure. Okay, James King asks, what should I do at this time of year if I just want to get pleasure fishing? I just want to catch a few fish. Hey, don't look at the boilies. Don't look at the the big fish venues. You just you go a few times a month. Just go out and catch a few fish. And I would say maggots, casters. The amount of times the other day I went, sort of with some maggots and just enjoyed. I had a bite of chuck. Probably the best fish I had was probably 4 ounce. I was probably lying at that size. But if you want a few bites this time of the year, go out, put a float on. Float fish, don't ledger, if you want to really enjoy yourself and have a nice pleasure day, there's nothing better than seeing a float go. And learn, plummet the peg, put a bit of bait in, go in, and then and float fish. Nothing better than Mike Eagles just said. Every day is a school day. Even now, Mike. Even now, I've been down with Jerry Rogers. The last couple of years down on the boat, learning, things that they do about tuna or shark or whatever. I learned when I went to Kenya, it's just, angling as an all-rounder, you just never, ever, ever know the subject. You really don't. You can, it's an incredible sport for that. Okay, Fisherman Tom, he's asking why I use a sunken float as opposed to a north float. To be honest, the times I rarely ever use a float looking at the top, because I put the indicator, I pull it down tight, and that's how I pike fish, even when I'm float fishing. I rarely float. If I've got a bait on the bottom, I don't float fish. I've ledgered, I've spoke about that. I don't use a float. But if I need to suspend the bait up on a paternoster live bait or something like that, then what I'll do is, if you've got 14 foot of water, going out from 14 out to there and then down 14 foot, you might be out 30, 40 yards and then down there. I would rather cut that down and go down just about 3 or 4 foot above the bait. So instead of the line going across the water, it's going down, and it just cuts that angle out, and it gives better bite indication. Much better bite indication. That's why I use a sunken float. I use the sunken float just to hold it up, to hold the bait up. That's all it's there for. And why should I have it at the top in 14, 12 foot of water or whatever, when I can have it down and get the line coming down? I don't want it too close because it causes tangles. But, it will cut that angle out, that acute angle, especially if you're on 20 foot of water. You just imagine you cast out, and out there's your float on the top in 20 foot of water, 30 yards out, and then you got it down to the... I don't see the point. My indicators, I put my indicator on the back, whether it comes towards me or goes away, bump, and it does actually make it more sensitive having that float down in the water rather than up. Okay, Andy Collier, he said, if he asked me to go to Derbyshire, where would I like to go? Well, to be honest, I wouldn't go to Derbyshire because Phil Millward lives there, and I'd end up in a boozer somewhere and doing no fishing. But joking apart, if I had to go somewhere in Derbyshire, it would be some of the upper rivers, like the Dove, fishing for grayling. I really, James King's just come on. Well, you just come on. You just missed your answer to your question, James. The upper reaches of the Dove. My favourite fishing of all fishing in the UK is upper rivers, fishing for grayling or dace. It really is. If I can get in the water with a float, with maggots, fishing for big dace, big grayling, out in the water especially, then I would say that's my favourite fishing. I do say sometimes I like my roach fishing my favourite, chub fishing, but I would say overall, if you ask me 20 times in the course of the next 5 years, I would think that probably 80% of the time I would say, Phil's going, it's Millward. Millward. So I would say that would be 80% of the time. I would say that I would like to fish the upper reaches of the rivers, and Derbyshire's got some absolutely beautiful rivers with trout and grayling. So that's what I'd do. Sean Pope, he asks the question about my favourite traditional baits and my favourite modern baits. Well, to be honest, Sean, my probably favourite traditionals would be maggots and casters, and modern baits would be boilies. But to be honest, I would think if you asked the average young lad now, would he say that traditional baits would be maggots and casters? He probably would say boilies, corn, wafters, whatever. We're coming through a different era, but it's got the place. Whether it be worms, maggots, or whatever. I've got no favourites. I'll use whatever. I remember being when I was fishing with Richard Francis the other day. Richard's a real good stalker of trout. He catches some big trout on the waters that he fishes by stalking them. But when we got on this water, there were new stockfish, and I said to him, I said, "What are you going to fish with?" He said, "I'm fishing a damsel snake, about that big, a damsel snake on a slow sinking intermediate and pulling it quick." And he emptied the water. He had 14 fish in a few hours before he cleared up. And as I said to him, I said, You know, some people would decry that and say it's not traditional. He said, and he answered it right. Hang on, I'm not traditional. You know, I'll fish traditional sometimes, but at the end of the day, I'm here to catch a few fish, and that's what he did. And that's exactly, you know, whether it's traditional, whether it's you class it as modern baits or whatever. At the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do. Mark Goodman there, hempen tears, fantastic. I've had some great fish on hempen tears, big roach, big chub, big carp. Phil Millwood has just said you don't have the passport to come into Derbyshire. So yeah, Sean, I'll use whatever. But those are my favourites, I would say. But as I say, you talk to the modern kids now, you know, they wouldn't hempen tears. They'd probably say that's something that goes in with a particle mix or you know, the fish over with the boilies. But our things change, and they will, and they'll keep changing. Dick Edmonds, would I go down on hook bait and light a tattle if I'm struggling to get a bite or struggling to get a fish? Very rarely would I do that. Very rarely would I do that, because I start off the day with a fish in mind and the size of fish in mind, and that's what I'm fishing for in the day. And rarely will I come off track of that. I don't think I'm going to blank here, so what I'll do is I'll put lighter line on, a smaller bait, so I can catch a few roach, a few days. If I'm after a barbel, I'm after a barbel. If I'm after a barbel, I'm probably after a decent barbel. And, you know, although I don't shoot things, you know, to get it in perspective, I wouldn't try to shoot an elephant with a 177 pellet gun, would I? You know, so I'm always trying to be geared that I've always got the best chance of landing the fish. I don't want to lose the fish. I'm sitting there to land the fish. And, you know, the amount of times I've seen this and heard this, that people fish for a barbel, they've baited up, they've continually baited, they've done what I've said about baiting weight and all that, they've done all that, they've gone through, and it's 4 hours in. It's 4 hours in. And they're on a known peg, they're on a known pitch where the barbel, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, they ain't far off kicking off. They are going to feed in a bit. But no, the chap wants to save a blank. Can be a weakness. All of a sudden, I'll put a maggot on, I'll put a piece of sweet corn on, I'll put a lighter line, smaller hook, and he chucks in, and lo and behold, just as an hour later, they come in on a big barbel, grabs the bait. He's on 4 pound line, he's on a 12 hook, and he gets smashed. And he's done all the hard work, and just because he's lost his patience and to save a blank, because I can never get my head round saving a blank. You know, to my mind, this is me personally, if I'm fishing for a decent barbel, would I want to save a blank catching a 4 ounce or a 1 pound roach that I've caught thousands of? If I'm after, like the other day when I was fished the river and I was after small ones, then great, you know, that's what I was after. But I'm not going to spoil the chance. I will fish right to the end after that fish. And if I blank, I blank. That's it. I won't go down in line strength or hook to get a bite off another species or a bite off the species I'm fishing and be undergunned. So I hope that's answered your question. Right, Mark Middleton, the last question of the day. What conditions for chub, for cheese and for bread? Well, simple to me, this is my personal opinion. If the water's clear and the river's low, or you know there's a decent clarity, normally I'll fish the bread. I'll either fish crust just popped up off the bottom, or I'll fish flake. And that's it. That's what I fish, a short tail, so it's just popped up about that much on the crust, and then I'll fish probably 2.5 foot, something like that, on a piece of flake. When it's coloured, when it's up and it's coloured, or it's just a bit coloured, I'll tend to fish the cheese. But to be honest, I'll take with a loaf of bread, I can put bread paste on, I can put flake on, I can put crust on, and then if I got the cheese, I've got the cheese. And one thing about the cheese, a chap was asking how to make cheese paste, and for some reason, You know, it seems to be, you know, you've got to get your cheese soft. No. A chub throws it back into his phalangeal teeth, and I think it was Fred J. Taylor put his finger down once and nearly ended up in the hospital with it smashed down. Because if you use one of those Enterprise paste balls on the side of your hook, or a little hair rig with a ball on or whatever, you just mould the cheese around, it can be as hard as rock. It doesn't matter. As long as it smells, as long as it's on. The nice thing about real hard, fish can't peck it off. Little tiny fish can't peck it off like soft paste. Or you pull it up, you just get to move and you think, the paste's come off. It don't come off when it's really hard, and it doesn't matter about being soft. The chub love it hard. They love boilies. They love rock hard boilies. I have had thousands, literally thousands over the last 15 years of barbel on hard chub on hard boilies. So don't worry about it soft. It doesn't need to be soft. If you want it soft, then you feel confident it's soft, then that's up to you. But it doesn't need to be, unless you're going to put it on the hook itself, which it masks it anyway. You know, if you use one of the Enterprise paste balls at the back, which fits on the back of the hook, or as I say, a little hair rig with a little ball on or whatever, just to put it on. You can have a hair rig little 12mm boiler if you want, and then mould the paste around that, and there you go. But don't be bothered about it's got to be soft paste. You know, people are doing all sorts of things to make it soft paste. I don't. I throw 3-4 lots of different cheese. I look at the supermarket and find out the cheap. You'll always see that in supermarkets where there's a basket full of nearly out of date. I just buy that, put it in the freezer, you know, in the summer, and then when it comes to the winter, I just put it all together, put it in the microwave, get it liquidy, mash it all round together, get it in. That's it. Freeze it, and the job's done. Rick Burton, what cheese do I use? The cheese that I get. I like a smelly one. I like the old Stilton in it. I like smelly, strong cheddar. And then, you know, put a bit of Leicester in, you know, to give a bit of colour or whatever. But yeah, any cheese, smell of cheese. Yeah, you can put a bit of garlic in it if you want. There's all little touches. I just put, you know, 3 or 4 different lots of cheese, put it in, and away you go. Okay, right, let's go to Willie Worm's prize this week. We're near the end, and this was a fish that, it was a typical Lee Harper Smith. He sent a photo of the lake, which was a lovely photo. He sent a photo of a carp, which was this lovely common, and he sent a photo of a murmuration. It just ticked all the boxes, and that was it. And so he wanted, you know, he put a lot of effort into the post. He shared a lot with us about the post, and he deserved the boilers, so he got it. Well done, mate. Well done, Lee. Sean Pope said, anyone tried using what was it he put there? Also make out of the leftover cheese. For the amount of times I say to people, you know, you got any cheese from Christmas, and the amount of family that I get it, and I get a great big heap of it. But the other thing is, and you know, I learned this from old Ray. Hey, don't throw it away when you've used it. Bring it back, put it back in the freezer. You wouldn't want to eat it, keep freezing it, but I tell you something now, it gets really tacky, smelly. Those chub absolutely love it. They used to eating semi-rotten things on the floor, like a died damsel, a died insect, you know, sort of a little fish that's died. It might be dead 3 or 4 days. He picks that up, you know. So they used to eating smelly, awful things that we wouldn't touch. Couldn't put it up by your nose, but they will eat it. So, you know, at the end of the day, just take it back into the freezer, chuck it in, freeze it, bring it out again. Don't just bring a lump off, bring the whole thing out. Take it with you, and then put it back in the freezer. You know, I'll do mine all winter, and then I still don't throw it away. I've still got stuff that I've probably had there for 2 years, and I'm still using it. That's it. You know, Julian Warrington, mouldy is best. I've never had it mouldy, but it wouldn't bother me because they'll eat it. That's for sure. Okay, the Dinsmore prize. So well done, Lee Harper Smith. That's a super. It was a super post. It weren't just a photo of a carp. It was the photo of the lake, and it was the photo of the murmuration. It was the whole package. Thanks. The Dinsmore prize was this one, and that was this super pike off the Canal. His first £20 pike off the Canal. He sent a lot of photos in of, he's had 14s and 15s and 16s, and eventually he's had his £20 pike off the Canal. It's a super fish from anywhere, never mind a canal. So well done. And his first 20 off the Canal. He's been trying for a few years, and he finally gets it. Yeah, that's an interesting one. John Hopton said, put a couple of drops of imbutic acid in it and it'll really stink. Yeah, I'll agree with that. I wouldn't do it because I absolutely hate the smell of it. Once you get it on your hands or in the house or whatever, it's just like, it's like rat pee. It really is awful stuff, but it does catch fish, that's for sure. So well done. Peter Jones, and the spiral points are on the way, mate. Well done. So that's the show for the week. I'm down the show tomorrow. I'll be there, willing to answer any questions, and I love people to come up. I've done a lot of fishing and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I always say to people on the guide days, when I tell people I do this and I do that and I do this, say, don't think I'm clever. I'm telling you now, the only reason I'm doing it this, because I've made all the mistakes I'm trying to tell you not to make. I've done them. I'm trying to get you to bypass those mistakes I made, and here I am. I've made every mistake possible. And, tomorrow, if I can help anybody just rolling up, away we go. I'll help you if I can. Okay, so there's the end of the show. See you next Friday night, and I'll tell you about the super prizes from Mohammed, and that somebody is going to absolutely be. I'm telling you, you will go. You joking? Mohammed's give these as prizes. You're joking. Well, he has. Okay. I'll see you next week, or I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll see you Sunday. Hope to see you Saturday or Sunday. If not, see you next Friday. All the best.